In this video, I want to walk through a YouTube video from local Nashville golf instructor Ben Pellicani working with a student. He's got a great video up on working on ground reaction forces and footwork, as he calls it, and how that affects and makes changes to your sequencing. Now, from my perspective, I want to look at this video and add some additional exercises or drills that we can do in the gym or in the clinic that'll help make the transfer of the drills that they're working on a little bit better. So sometimes there's physical restrictions or mobility restrictions and stability issues that make swing drills a little bit more difficult to take and integrate and then produce. So when we can look at the body and see how that's playing a role, a lot of times we can make this process a little bit more smooth. So what we can do is see what does this drill need from the physical perspective, and then what are some drills that we can do and work into that we can do in our off time, when we're in the gym, we're trying to work on things specific to golf that'll just translate directly to what you're working on in practice or with your instructor and things like that. So today we're looking at footwork, how that changes sequencing, and then what are some things that might be holding back your ability to be really, really good at some of these drills.
We've talked about sequencing. I want to paint the light of sequencing through your footwork.
So in the video, you can see Ben's working with this student. They're working on some timing and sequencing of the body. And what they're noticing is that as they're struggling to figure out or improve his timing, that they can attack the footwork as a component to make those changes. So as the timing was getting messed up, he's had to save himself in order to hit good shots. And effectively, they want to eliminate that and just produce really good swings and good sequencing.
When the knees get square, the arms are too high, then you have to do something to get that club back down on plane. What you do is be getting this foot going this way into this heel. So it looks like this. Down. Okay, so notice what happened. Everything spun out. And think about this for a second. So if I'm sitting here and I'm going, how do you... We saw your hands wear at the top. When your knees got back to square, your hands were basically at your shoulder, and then you have to lean, stop, throw, all the stuff that gets us in trouble.
In this first drill, we're using a turntable and a foot rocker. It's a great drill. And the way that Ben has explained it makes a whole lot of sense, and how we can start affecting the ground reaction forces and the footwork, and then how everything above it starts to change. In his first effort to complete the drill, he's spinning out, so still spinning too much. He failed to transfer weight to his lead side effectively, and we're not getting the direction of motion that we're looking for from that trail side, which just shows when you're on a surface like a turntable like that, it just shows where the force is going, right? And so you can't turn that table towards you unless you're pulling or adducting the leg across your body or putting force back this way. And effectively what's kind of showing us is there's a transfer, a weight shift into the lead side, and then there's a deloading of the backside or that trail leg. And again, all that shows us is just how much force is going into this lead side here. And he says he wants that force going into the heel, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Do we see the board shift into the heel on that lead side? And we see that turntable kind of turning clockwise and towards the golfer. In the first instance, just struggle to get the right weight shift and struggle to get the right direction on the turntable. So again, what this drill is really great at is forcing you to get your pressure and weight into that lead side, and then deload the trail side, right? So we get really, really good feedback from that rocker of where the weight is on the left side and whether it's there at all. So get to see the completion of the weight shift or the pressure push towards that lead side from the rear side. So we have to push from rear side into lead side, and we can see the completion of that as that turntable moves and the foot drags across it and across the turf. We need great stability from not just this lead side, but this trail side hip to actually be able to control and turn that turntable in the way that he wants us to. So we need these muscles of the groin muscles, essentially, of that rear side to be able to control hip, to pull it back in. We need the muscles on the outside of the hip to be able to create a little bit of rotation and again, a little bit of a drag towards that lead side after it's completed the push off from that trail side. So you'd be really surprised how sore you might be the next day if you did this drill for a long time and did a really good job at it, how the groin muscles, the inside edge of the thigh muscles might get really sore, how the outside hip on that lead side might start getting a little bit sore, and even that glute on that lead side might get a little bit sore. A ton of stability and awkward stability needed through the pelvis to be really, really good at this. You'll feel some weird muscles kicking on around that pelvis to do this drill really, really well.
Get left, slide the foot. Get left, slide the foot.
And so what has been effectively done with this drill, we just talked about it, all these new muscles are starting to kick on around the pelvis. There's different movement and direction and different rotation happening at different times by affecting what's happening at the foot. The ground reaction forces. He essentially turned his right foot, said we're putting you on ice here on this right foot. It's a turntable. It'll slide if you put weight in different directions. It's like the foot's on ice all of a sudden. And then same thing with this lead side. We have a shift board. So now we can see forces. We know if we're doing a really good job or not. We've addressed the foot and the floor, and we just changed a ton about what's happening at the pelvis, right? So these muscles at the hip and the pelvis now drastically different in what he's going to be feeling through that to accomplish the tasks that he set forth on the ground. Interesting, the golfer in the video I'm going to show you now is a right-handed golfer, but we did this drill on both sides as a med ball throw. You can see his natural pattern of creating force when we're trying to go from a trail side into a lead side and throw a med ball. You'll see what his feet start to do, and then cue him or tell him to do this. And the example I show you is actually a video I took where it was one of his least amounts of movement we got from that foot. We usually got some big movement. We can see what that foot is doing. It's essentially the same thing that's happening that this drill is trying to get the golfer to do. So essentially, like another really good drill that you can do in the gym with a med ball and a wall is this throw drill, which I'll show you. And if we don't even think about it, and we just try to be athletic and create as much force as possible, you'll see the exact same thing happen in the trail foot. So what do we need to be really, really good at this drill? We need frontal plane stability and motor control. So that is side to side, the muscles around the pelvis on the left or the right side. Controlling frontal plane, which is this plane here, side to side. If we can get really strong through these muscles, have a lot of motor control through these muscles, and then have the mobility at the hip to be able to move into the pelvis like this, that's what we need to be really, really good at this drill. Now that includes the muscles on the inside part of the pelvis, like the groin muscles that we talked about earlier. Having good awareness, strength, and stability through these muscles here makes you really, really good at this drill as well, or gives you the capacity to be really good at it. It also really helps to be great at understanding how to put force down through your foot and into the ground. So good awareness of force and pressure through the foot will make a drill like this a whole lot easier too. So let's show you some movements that'll help you kind of unlock what's happening here at the pelvis. Be really good at manipulating your pelvis and hip in the frontal plane or side to side, but also understanding what it's like to put force down through the ground to get change up above it. So just addressing that understanding and awareness of it. Try these drills out for that. Okay, we're working through our kickstand hinge lateral tilts. So we're going to be in one of our favorite positions here, this kickstand hinge position. But from this position here, instead of working through a kickstand hinge where we're focused on hinging at the hips, what we're going to do instead is start with a kickstand hinge, get into a deep hinge, feel the hip and glute doing all the work. Again, all my weight is mostly suspended forward in this forward leg. The knee angle never bends as I reach down. I stay nice and strong through the spine. Once we get here, instead of hanging out in this position and going and moving through forward and backwards and driving pressure through the foot, we're going to now bring it into the frontal plane where we're going to tilt now. So we do a kickstand hinge. We get all the way down. We stay nice and strong through the spine. Right when we're about close to towards the bottom, now I'm going to let this pelvis start to drop and turn. So think belt buckle towards that forward hip. We feel this side working really hard, and then I'm working hard to maintain my spine angle here as I now do the exact opposite and kind of untilt back towards the other way. And from here, we're just working through this pelvic drop and tilt. Again, all my weight staying suspended into this forward side, and that knee angle never changing. So we get into a deep kickstand hinge. We feel all the pressure and weight into the back side of this hip, and then we keep it there now as we manipulate and maneuver that pelvis through the frontal plane where we're tilting side to side. So this is the kickstand hinge with lateral tilt. Go ahead, give it a shot. These are our separation kickstand turns. So what we're working on here is creating some stability here, separation here, mobility here, and then vice versa. Can we create some stability here and some separation here at the pelvis? So again, can we separate these two regions? Very important for the golf swing, and TPI Golf has even built some assessments around this to see do you have the capacity to separate these two regions because of how important it is in the golf swing. So what we're going to start with is one of my favorite positions is this kickstand position. All of the weight is in the forward leg, slight bend in this knee, and I want you to feel like you're suspending yourself up through this hip, right? It's almost like this glute just kicks on, to keep the hip from kind of giving out on you, to keep you upright. All the weight is in this forward side. This is just here if we need it. From here, a slight hinge. I want you to stay as strong and long through your spine as you can as you do that. And then from here, hands go wherever you like, across the shoulders, on your hips, whatever you kind of prefer. What we're working on in this position first, and we can do it a few different ways, is let's say we want to turn the pelvis, but keep the trunk stable, right? So trunk, there's a laser on the sternum, and it stays pointing in one direction. What we'll do here is I want you to think about turning the belt buckle in towards the hip, while the trunk and the sternum stay facing home, and then turn that pelvis back the other way. Again, sternum stays pointing down. I want you to really work hard to get into your true end range here in this position. And I think this hand position here really helps keep that sternum or trunk locked down. So imagine almost like you're going down to hold the club in your hand. Really work hard to turn that pelvis as far as it'll let you, and you will feel the muscles around that hip really start to light up. We can do the same thing now with the trunk being the mobile part, but the head and the belt buckle or the pelvis stays locked into place. So for here, hands and pelvis stay in place. I just want you to turn your trunk as far as it'll let you, and then turn trunk back the other way, again, as far as it'll let you. Be careful here not to start standing up and losing your posture as you do this. Try to keep that angle at the knee and at the hips throughout, and that'll really cook or get these muscles around the pelvis working pretty dang hard. So try both versions of this drill. Work hard to get into true end range. Pull that pelvis as far as it'll let you. Open that pelvis up as far as it'll let you, and continue to adjust and fight back with the position that's supposed to be stable and unmoving. This is a great warm-up movement, but we can really take any sort of mobility and stability motor control that we've training and apply it to an upright position golf stance position with a move like this. Give it a shot. Okay, this is our heavy band takeaway. So we can do this in the backswing direction as well as the downswing direction. In both cases, as a righty golfer, here this is my backswing direction. In both cases, we're only moving this band from about thigh to just beyond the opposite side thigh. So from about here to here. We want to load this up with a very heavy band. We can go even heavier than this here. Again, we want this to be right on tension at this thigh and then have exceptional amount of tension through here. What we can work on in a drill like this is getting the core involved to create rotation on a stable platform, right? Stable feet, stable femurs, as well as trying to figure out what muscles need to work to push yourself into this right side and pull yourself into this right side. So I want you to feel on this lead side foot that you're pushing through the inside edge of this foot into initiating the backswing. You should feel this left glute start to work hard here. Same thing, I want you to feel yourself pulling yourself into this right side with this right groin or adductor muscles, right? So I want you to feel some right groin, almost like your foot is sliding across the floor, but the friction is going to keep it there as we pull ourselves into this right side, inside groin. And you'll even get a little bit of the side hip starting to work on this side as you pull yourself in this side. That should be the anterior glute med and some of this side muscles here at the hip. Again, working to pull us into this right hip. So we can integrate this push and this pull into this backswing, as well as you're going to feel the core and obliques working hard to pull through the trunk and stabilize the pelvis as well. So all these muscles are going to be working hard together. And again, I want you thinking about ground reaction forces as we push through the inside edge of this foot and pull ourselves through the connection with the ground on this foot. Okay, so don't miss out on these components. Now the same thing is reversed when we go into what would be a downswing version of this, where I'm pulling myself into here and pushing myself out of there. I want you to feel hip, groin, some side hip here. Okay, go ahead. We do this for slow reps. Hold for a second or two, and then back down. Trying to integrate all this together. We can find pain in this, maybe in the low back, different areas, tells us we're compensating, and we can just work through different positions to help make sure that this is a pain-free motion and we're getting the right muscles doing the right things at the right time. Give it a shot. Okay, for this exercise and drill, what we need is a med ball and a wall. What we're going to picture or imagine here is on our backswing. What we're trying to avoid is this hike of the shoulders at that transition from the top of the backswing into the downswing. So what we're going to do to start to emphasize that is with a medicine ball, we're going to go straight back, and then I want you to think dropping that arm down, throwing the ball down towards your back heel, okay? So from here, we're going up, then I want you to think back down towards your back heel, okay? This helps keep us going from here to more here, okay? After that, a couple of those, what I want you to do is same thing, backswing, and then I want you to go same thing, back towards heel, but I want you to follow that swing through a little bit, okay? So we come off the wall just slightly, backswing. So you let that ball release on your way down, and you hope, and we're aiming to get that ball to land towards our back heel again. So that helps that transition, and then we can get into a little bit more intensity where we're really slamming that ball down and then focusing on that follow through, okay? Go ahead, give that a shot.
Start with your right toe up in the air. With your toe up, the bottom of my foot never touched the ground. I should be able to put your phone underneath your shoe.
Okay, so now Ben's working into this kind of toe up drill where the trail side foot, the toes are up. As you move in this backswing, you have no choice but to put force pressure into the heel of that trail side. What this is also really effective at doing is kind of forcing you or helping you coil and turn into this right side hip and glute. So think glute, glute, glute. We can get the hip back into the deep structures of that hip capsule and the deep muscles of the hip, including glute max, glute medius, to, again, unlock the stretch of that glute around this hip joint that we can then unload as we turn back towards the left. So this toe-up drill, he's working on it for a few different reasons, but one thing that we can think about is how does this get us to effectively coil and put pressure into the right side using the pelvis to our advantage. So I want to show you a few movements that specifically look at how can we get really good at feeling like we're turning into this hip and that we're actually using all of our available range of motion at that hip. The drills that we did before were also really good for making this toe up drill great, but let's focus a little bit more on trail side and turning into that trail side. And then we can translate that again back into that original drill or any version of it. So try these next few drills for a really good understanding of what it's like to get deep into that hip joint as you turn and coil or pivot into that side. This is the kickstand hinge. For this position, what we're going to be in is a split squat position, soft bend in this lead side foot, and then 99% of the weight is in this forward leg, right? So we're kind of just balancing up here on our toes. Where a lot of people have issues with this drill is we're not finding the back of the hip like we should, and that's because as we start to go down, people are putting more weight into this back side, which is going to get more hamstring out of it. So to really get into the spot that we're looking for, you have to stay forward and keep this weight forward. So the kickstand hinge. This is our position. I like to go opposite hand in the front of the hip of the forward side leg, and then the same side hand kind of feels the spot that I want to feel working really hard. So it's almost like this hand is pushing this hip backwards as we hinge down, down, down. Spine stays as long and as straight as we can get it throughout the movement. So we're here, soft bend on the knee, all my weight's forward. I'm going to hinge from the hip, but this knee angle never changes. So as I go down, this knee never moves forward, and as I come back up, this knee never moves back. So wherever the starting position is, right over the laces, about knee over laces, that's where it stays. From here, we hinge, we're staying as long through the spine as we can. Head goes forward as the hips go back. And then once we load into this part and it starts to go into the hamstring, we stop. So we stop before we load into too much hamstring. The entire purpose of this position, this drill, is to get as much load in the back of the hip and into this glute as we can. Think about it as working the glute, but also lengthening it as we do it. You should feel this kind of gross sensation, this burning happening here in the back of the hip and into the glute, and that's what we're searching for. We want to teach you to hinge into the back of that hip again and into that glute, as opposed to getting all low back and hamstring working through all this hip extension positions. Okay, so that is the kickstand hinge. These positions are very important. Don't let this knee move forward or backward at any point throughout the movement, and we're searching to find this. One way to help find this if you're struggling and it stays more hamstring is to, again, stay as tall as you can, keep that knee angle the same. As you hinge down, if you're struggling to find it on the way down, that's okay. That's normal. What I want you to do is get down to a position here and think about squeezing or squishing, melting that foot down into the ground. you're pushing 10 out of 10 hard that foot into the ground, and that should help you feel this muscle here start to kind of turn on and work. I want you to keep that 10 out of 10 max effort, pushing, melting the foot into the floor as we slowly start to unhinge and come back up. That should really turn on and kick on that back of the hip. And again, like I said, the number one problem where people get more hamstring than glute is because as we go down, we start to kind of lose our weight into this trail side leg, and then we struggle to find hip. So make sure you're staying forward and keeping all that weight forward, almost like you could lift this foot up if you really needed to. Okay? And that is how we start to get into that back of the hip, create some length through the structures here in the back of the hip, and then again, strengthen the glute through the length of the glute. Go ahead, give it a shot. Okay, this is our iso glute movement. What we need for this is something about 6 inches tall would be perfect. We can go a little bit taller, a little bit shorter. That's no problem. Firm would be better than soft, but for this purpose, this would work. So this is an isometric movement around the glute and the hip muscles here, and then we add in this hinge component to it. So we're gonna really work into the deep muscles of the hip and that glute max here on the back side of that hip. Here's the position. We're in this kind of split squat position to start. So I want all my weight on this back foot. All I'm going to do from this position is get tall through my spine, and then I want you to hinge over this forward foot. I want you to, again, stay as long and tall, as straight as you can through the spine as you do this. Don't let yourself start to get slouchy. So a good hinge on this right hip. Once we start to feel a little bit of stretch in this glute, we won't get much, maybe even a little bit of hamstring here, that's fine too. Once we kind of run out of good hinge, we're going to transfer the weight from this back foot onto this forward foot. So we go from here, we pause. I want you to go weight more and more and more into this forward foot, and you should feel this hip start to light up slowly as you do that. So as we transfer weight from back foot into this forward foot without changing the angle of our hinge, we're going to keep going until our toes are just kind of barely hanging off the ground here. Now we want to keep them here for a little bit of support, but that'll be our position. You'll see as I start to transfer weight from back foot to my forward foot, is this knee might start to extend or straighten out just a little bit. That's fine. That's kind of pulling us up so that we take more weight off this backside. So this can start to straighten up a little bit, but only minimally. We want to keep a nice bend in that knee. And then we might lose just a little bit of hinge here. We get a little bit taller. That's fine too. Whatever gets us to that position where 100% of the weight is on this forward foot and we're just kind of barely hanging out on the toes here. So you feel this region start to really light up and work pretty dang hard as we move forward and then stay there. We'll also get some quad as well. The key or the goal once we get here is to now just kind of hinge in and out of that position. So this is my start right here. I'm going to hinge a little bit deeper, and this lights up even more. I keep a firm foot contact into that ground. The knee angle never changes as I unhinge and then right back down. And we kind of stay in this hinge, and we're just going to slowly move down and up, keeping a vertical, very straight spine as we do that, almost like we're trying to reach our head forward the whole time, not allowing this kind of slouch to happen. And all the weight stays into this foot as this foot drives into the ground. Knee angle never changes once we start hinging, and all the work's coming from the back here and a little bit of quad. It's a great movement to get a lot of work done in a stretched out or elongated glute muscle, and teach it to control that hinge around the back side of that hip as we put some load through and into that. So go ahead, give that a shot. Okay, this is our into hip kettlebell swing. To start the drill, we're in this split squat position, which looks like this. All my weight is on the forward leg. What we're going to do from here is essentially a kettlebell swing, but off to the side. So we stay in this split squat position. The key with this is keeping your weight on that forward leg, starting with a soft bend in that knee, and then keeping it kind of as we go in and out of this hip flexion and extension. Okay, the key with this is this belt buckle. This is the way I like to think about it. The belt buckle follows the kettlebell. So think that this belt buckle has eyes, and it keeps following the kettlebell as we swing in and out. What that does is it encourages this pelvis to rotate on top of this hip. So we've stabilized the lower half. The foot is grounded. It's not allowed to move. You're not allowed to reach or come out on the outside edge of your foot as we spin the kettlebell into our hip. It has to stay grounded. A great cue here is keep weight on the inside edge of that foot the whole time, and that forces you to turn through the pelvis on top of that hip. So we get to drive this great internal rotation here at this hip joint, and then we get to teach that hip to be strong through that range of motion, to be able to take force, dynamic force and speed into that hip, stop it, and then get it back out. So we improve the durability through that rotation into that hip and the performance of that hip. We also get this great supination and pronation happening at the foot. The femur starts to rotate, the tibia has to rotate below it. We have to stabilize through the knee. It's a fantastic drill for teaching you to move through the transverse plane or this rotation in the lower half. Now, the trunk can rotate with you, but when we think belt buckle towards kettlebell, this forces us to make sure that the pelvis is really doing most of that rotation, and then we can turn through here all we want. What some people will do is turn more through the spine without moving the pelvis, which is kind of defeating the purpose of the movement. So think belt buckle first, okay? You'll feel the outside and backside of this hip really light up to complete that drill, and that we can do for reps, and then we can work up with a heavier weight in our hands over time. So we get more force that we have to slow down and speed back up. Okay, go ahead, give it a shot. Okay, so this was a great video from Ben. You can see as more data comes out, golf professionals, rehab professionals like myself, we're trying to use that data to understand more of what's going on and how this data or these ground reaction forces can be manipulated to improve or affect performance, like on Ben's side, or understanding injury and then rehabbing and improving injury and performance on top of it. So as more data comes out, the better that we get at understanding this and then integrating all this into effective change throughout the body in the swing, and then just through rehab and injury. Everything starts from the ground. You put force in the ground, it moves and changes joint angles up above it. So the angle of force that you're putting it in, the direction of the force, the magnitude of the force, and the position that the joints are stacked above the foot as it puts force in the ground, all depends on how much force or speed we get out of it and in what direction we move, right? So it all starts with the ground. It's important to understand this stuff and learn how we can translate that into golf performance and rehab. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to check out Ben's channel, Pelligolf, on YouTube as well as Instagram. And then let me know anything else you want to review, any videos out there, whether it's golf drills or golf rehab, whatever it might be, and we can do a video on it, break it down, and give you some more details on how it all works. Thanks.